What is going on, everybody? This is Drew Code Sports Talk. I am your host, Cody Johnson, and over in the opposite screen is my damn good-looking co-host, Andrew Wright. Andrew, say hello to the people out there.
You know I don't like when you say stuff like that.
Why, you don't like that I compliment that you're a tall glass of water?
I refuse that.
And I'm a bit thirsty for you.
I appreciate it. I know we always send some risque TikToks to each other.
Yeah, we do. And also to our wives even question us sometimes. Yeah. Our wives sometimes question us, and
that's all right. Whatever.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a true
question all you want.
Yeah, I think that's a true bromance if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, for sure. What's up, Smitty?
Yep, Podcast Smitty here. What up, Smitty? We are live, guys. So if you guys are watching us on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. We've got a packed episode for you guys. Obviously talking NFL stuff, talking NBA. NBA Game 5 is happening right now. And of course, the news that kind of shook the baseball world yesterday, Drew, which was the Giants acquiring Rafael Devers, which was huge in and of itself. So, I mean, we can go ahead and get into pleasantries, but man, I know that you've been gearing up for this. So let's just get into it, man. So how excited are you for having Devers? What's your thoughts about the Giants acquiring him?
First of all, absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Cody, we've been lucky twice this year.
Mm-hmm.
Twice. First, we got the Lakers getting Luka, not being shopped at all. I mean, they just were like, oh, yeah, here, take it. You can take him however you want it. You want him for nothing? Sure, take him. So that's what we got. And then the Giants were like, hey, we're kind of over a couple of these pictures and we need a bat. And you seem to be making horrible decisions on the Rafael Devers thing. So we'll take him. And they were like, sure. Can we get a couple of prospects who may not ever come to fruition like Rafael Devers? Yeah, of course, you can take those guys. Okay, cool. Sounds good. So, and the sad thing is there's a report out there that the Red Sox never shopped him either. So there you go. We've gotten lucky twice.
Who would have thought that Nico Harrison moonlights as the GM for the Boston Red Sox as well? Because he
couldn't be happier.
Devers was given away for almost nothing. I mean, no offense. So I'm not trying to say that Kyle Harrison isn't a good pitcher. I mean, he's had some pretty good games, but clearly still like a bunch of talent that needs to be refined, and, you know, it's going to come with experience. But outside of that, like giving up Jordan Hicks, who had a really high ERA coming into the season. I think he's at like a 6 now. So he wasn't even having a great season in general. And we were able to give him Kyle Harrison. We didn't have to give up Brett Elledge, who is our number 1 prospect right now. So, I mean, granted, I know that there's a bunch of red flags going around Devers with him not really being a team player, quote unquote, with not going to first base and all this other stuff. And we'll get into that later on into the segment. But I mean, this is the bat that we've been kind of looking for, a little bit of a spark. And, you know, the fact that we got him for not even having to deconstruct the team, I think is stellar.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is, well, let's go into what the trade was. So first of all, the Giants traded Jordan Hicks, right-handed pitcher who was a relief pitcher trying to become a starting pitcher because he was a starting pitcher in, I believe, college. And he wanted to do that again, obviously. Then it kind of wasn't working out with the Giants because he kept getting hurt, or he wouldn't last long enough, or, you know, second time around through the lineup, it seemed to be getting not better. So they were like, okay, well, I think you're a better relief pitcher. And of course he was like, well, I don't want to give up on it. And so it was starting to kind of become a little bit of a fiasco with the Giants. And I think Jordan Hicks was starting to get a little, I don't want to say like mad, but I think he was a little frustrated, which I think is fair to say. Then they trade Kyle Harrison, who is a pitcher who's pretty much ready to be a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball, but he does still have some hangups that are going to prevent him from being like one of the best right now. And it's experience. He needs experience, time, all that jazz. But unfortunately, right now, the Giants starting pitchers, minus Landon Roop, are pretty stellar, and they're all set and good with what they have. And so, and for some reason, the Giants are like, well, we like Landon Roop, and, well, maybe I'll get into that in a little bit, but they wanted to hang on to Landon Roop, and Kyle Harrison had to kind of wait for his opportunity. Unfortunately, that never came this year. I mean, he literally was going to pitch yesterday, and he's part of the trade, so he never really truly got his chance. And then you have James Tibbs III, who is a outfielder prospect for the Giants. He is probably going to be a prospect either coming up into the majors next year or in 2 years. Maybe even possibly this year, but I doubt it. It looks like specifically with outfielders, I think the Red Sox are decent. I mean, barring some injury. And then you have Jose Bello, who is a pitcher in the Giants organization as well, a prospect who, is further down the line than any of the other players. So that is what the Giants traded. And a lot of people are saying, well, the Red Sox could have got way more. And by all means, they probably could have gotten more. But here's the thing. What they were trying to do is not just trade Rafael Devers, but they were trying to see who was going to take on his full contract.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why the Giants didn't have to give up as much as most people would want, because you have to take on that whole big, 10-year contract. I think he's 2 years into it. So I think it ends up him being 8 years with the Giants left.
Mm-hmm.
But having said all that, it is beyond wild that they were able to not only be okay with getting rid of Rafael Devers, but getting rid of that contract. And really, there's only a few handful of teams that had the money for it, and the Giants were one of those teams.
Well, I mean, if the rumors are true that he wasn't even being shopped around, I mean, the Giants basically had first play, and I would even argue the Red Sox didn't even get the best out of what the Giants could have offered for Devers. And, I think what's interesting too about this is clearly it looks like it was some sort of strife between Devers supposedly not looking to play ball with the Red Sox in terms of being a team guy. But this is also the same Red Sox that signed Alex Bregman in the offseason, who's also a third baseman, and then trying to smooth it all over as if they didn't probably have a situation on their hands to begin with. And I think what's interesting too about all this is I think this puts the Giants in a position where now they feel like that they are actually contending for not only a wild card spot, but the NL West. This puts us in a really good position to battle it out when we have crucial series with the Padres, with the Dodgers. Now we actually have a lineup where it can probably neutralize some of that pitching. Now, granted, we still have a ways to go because we gotta put it all together. But I'm curious to see now at the deadline, what do we turn into as a buyer's market? What pitching do we maybe fortify the bullpen with to really, kind of put it all together? So I'm really curious to see how this all turns out. And the fact that we got him for pennies on the dollar, I think is one thing that is very similar to the Luka thing. Still can't believe it. Can't believe that it was that inexpensive, and that the Boston Red Sox could have gotten a haul if they really wanted to be patient and do a bidders war. And there must have been something with this where they didn't even want to have that. They wanted Devers out of the building as quick as possible, which, I mean, I don't know if that's a Devers thing or a Red Sox thing. So
the one thing that I would say about this trade is there was no way that the Giants were going to have Bryce Eldridge or Carson Whisenhunt, who are two of the top prospects in the Giants organization. There was no way that they were going to be involved in that. And the reason is what I said prior, the contract. The Red Sox had to get rid of this huge contract. They were not going to trade Devers and still pay him to be a part of another team for 8 more years or whatever it is. So I just don't think that people fully understand that. But I do also say this is a fantastic trade. This to hang on to those two players, to hang on to a Bryce Eldridge, who is going to be their first baseman moving forward. When he does come up, but now you can intermingle those guys. This is what is brilliant about this move, is if you can convince, hey, Rafael, we want you to play first base here and there, but we're not going to have you strictly be a first base. You're going to get third base starts, you're going to get first base starts, and you're also going to have DH starts. And this is brilliant because you can have Matt Chapman at third base, and then you can have Rafael Devers at first, and you can have Bryce Eldridge at the DH. And you can intermingle all those guys. Hey, Bryce, why don't you play first? Rafael, why don't you go DH? Or Chapman, why don't you be the DH? Devers, why don't you go play third? Eldridge, you go play first. Now that's a great situation. Now you're constantly having those bats in the lineup, and you still make Rafael Devers happy because he gets to play the position that he wanted to play. And let's be honest, both parties of the Red Sox and Rafael Devers were wrong to a certain extent. But right. I think the Red Sox, the way they went about things was way worse. Could Rafael Devers be a better teammate? Absolutely. But his point of view, and something that I think we can all agree with, is, hey, they told me I was going to be the third baseman of the future. They were paying me to play third base. That's where I want to play. I want to play for the Red Sox for a long-term deal. I wouldn't have signed it if I didn't want to be here. And I wanted to play third base, but now you're telling me that I can't play? That's not fair. And you're paying me all this money. I still want to play third base. And so in a sense, he is being a team player because he wanted to play the position that he got signed to be playing at. And so he's just upset. Now, was it the wrong move to say, well, I'm not going to play first base? Yeah, you don't be that guy. No one likes that guy. But at the same time, Boston is going, well, you're going to be our third baseman of the future. And then they sign Alex Bregman without even telling, hey, listen, we're going to sign Bregman. You guys are probably going to have to switch third base and DH. Are you cool with that? Maybe we can get you to play a little first base. And I guarantee you, Devers would have been like, okay, let's talk about it. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. As long as I get some third base, I'm good. Because that's what the conversation is going to be in San Francisco. Hey, a few times you're going to get that third base, and especially with Chapman on the IL right now, he's going to be playing third base the whole time. And then eventually, when Chapman comes back, they're probably going to – now they're able to work him in slowly at third base. Now they don't have to rush him at all because you got Devers. So this is a great move by the San Francisco Giants. But the Red Sox handled this horribly, and this is a history repeating itself over and over again. And there's something going on in Boston because we all have heard of the curse of the Bambino. Well, that was the Red Sox trading Babe Ruth to the Yankees, and Red Sox until 2004 finally overcoming that curse. Then you had Mookie Betts, who, for all intents and purposes, said, I want to be in Boston. I want to stay in Boston. I want to be the future for Boston. Everyone in Boston, except for the ownership, was like, yeah, let's go. And then Boston was like, well, we're not going to pay you that much, so you can go somewhere else. And then he goes to the Dodgers. And then we had recently Xander Bogaerts, who was like, okay, I want to stay a Red Sox. I want to play with Rafael Devers beside me, and we'll lock up shortstop and third base. And Red Sox are like, ooh, that price is a little too much. So we'll go after a injury-ridden Trevor Story. Yeah. And you go ahead and good luck with getting that much money with some other team. And the Padres were like, we'll actually pay you more than what you're asking for. And he was like, great, sounds good. So, and then obviously the Rafael Devers move now. So Boston hates their best players because for some reason they will not sign him to a long-term contract. And I feel for Boston fans because San Francisco we never even had like the great players like that Boston had, but we were always dying for someone to like sign. And now we finally got someone who is not only a guy who hits for average, but he hits for power. And that's huge in our lineup right now. A guy who's so consistent. His defense is not great, but I think where we're at right now in terms of defense, we can sacrifice that.
Yeah. Well, and not only that too, but I mean, Devers, let's be honest, we're not bringing him in because he's a defensive specialist. That's what Matt Chapman is. We have other guys that can fill that role, but there's not a lot of guys that can have a powerful bat like Rafael Devers. Like, that's why he's coming in there. And we need power within the lineup, and we need a guy that's just a hell of a baseball player. And that's what Devers is. And here's the thing about the Boston Red Sox. Like, I get you want a player that is all about the team and this and that, but sometimes you got to also show some loyalty to your players. And the fact that they've had in this decade 3 phenomenal players that have gone on to other teams and helped them get over the hump. Like, Devers was the last player on that, the 2018 World Series championship team. And he re-signed in 21 for an 11-year deal. Didn't even make it to year 4 on that deal. And he's out of the door now. Like, you know, Boston doesn't hand out these long-term deals very often. And I don't imagine that Devers would have treated this kind of like a Juan Soto situation where he couldn't have waited to get out of there. Like, it had to sour to the point to where Devers, knowing that he was going to commit to the rest of his career with the Red Sox, and then this is where we're at today. So I find it strange. I'm very curious, though, and I know that we talked about this around the trading deadline, but Drew, I got to be honest, man. I think what I'm excited for is the fact that Buster Posey, in his first year of taking over baseball operations, has completely turned this organization around to where there's a winning attitude, there's a moxie about them, and there's players that actually want to play in San Francisco, it feels like.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Devers is going to be a domino effect of players that go to San Francisco, see, oh, they actually have a good ball club. And then there's going to be players that follow suit. And Buster Posey, who was one of the great players that everyone loved to play around, and he knew the game, and he's one of the greatest, obviously, catchers in the game's history and Giants history. And now what he's doing is he's bringing that same culture and attitude to the front office, to how they prospect, how they bring guys up, how they utilize them, you know, and Bob Melvin having that empowerment to run his team. I feel like that this is a really good stepping point to putting the Giants back in a winning situation that we were like years ago. Because when you and I were in our early teens, we remember seeing some very dominant Giants games with Barry Bonds in the lineup. And, you know, we haven't had that success. Even when we had the 2010, 2012, 2014 Giant runs, those still were a little bit more of like, oh, we weren't dominant, but we were a competitive team.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're getting...
it was built on pitching. And we had a couple of guys who could hit for power, but consistently not really.
Right. Because I remember more of the pitching staff than I do the hitters.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like we're kind of getting on that same train. So that's why, like, even at the top of the segment, when I said trading deadline, I'm very curious to see who we go after. Like, I feel like in my bones that the Giants are going to be a buyer for a starting quality pitcher, and maybe like another, maybe a bullpen bolster kind of a guy. I wouldn't say an elite closer, because I feel like Duvall's done actually pretty well. And I feel like we have enough guys that have done well this season to where we don't have to go after like a closer, quote unquote. But I think like another starting quality pitcher type to kind of replace Harrison to really fortify the rotation, I think is probably what we may target when that time comes, or in the immediate future, because we're going to want, you know, obviously pitching to combat with the division, because they've got hitters that could, you know, get hot real quick.
So if the Giants do anything else at the trade deadline, I'm going to tell you right now, they're not going to get another starting pitcher. They have Carson Whisenhunt in the wings in AAA. The dude is absolutely dealing. Now they have an excuse to use him and see how he looks in Major League Baseball. I'm over Landon Roop. I'm done with his experiment. I don't think he's good. I don't know why the Giants continue to send him out there, if I'm being perfectly honest. This sounds kind of harsh, but like Landon Roop, every time he's coming out, he's given up 4 runs. And right now, we didn't have the offense to combat that. And so it seemed like every time he's being out there, we have to score, 4 or 5 runs to even have a chance, which typically, if you have a good pitcher, you only need to score about 3 runs to really do well. And so those added extra 2 runs, especially with a offensive starved type of team, that's a lot harder. It's easier said than done. And so, so I don't think they're going to go after starting pitching. I think we have enough depth there. Relief pitching, I mean, maybe we'll make a move, but honestly, right now, we have the best relief pitchers in the game, and we could arguably go after someone and trade someone away to get maybe another bat or, shoot. I mean, I wish the Cubs were sucking right now, because now we have juice to go get Kyle Tucker, but I don't think that's going to happen now. I think he's going to stay with. I don't think they're going to trade him. But just get another outfielder, even someone who's not playing all the time, like even like a Tyler O'Neill, a guy who doesn't always have to play. He's got a big bat. He's fast. He's got a good glove. He would fit the Giants really well. Hell, you could even go after a Ryan Mountcastle from Baltimore, who I know is not doing great, but he still has some good power, and you can use him. But with them going after Dominic Smith, I doubt they're going to go after another first baseman. I think they're basically going to hang on to Wilmer Flores, Dominic Smith, and then until Bryce Eldridge is ready to go. So it's exciting time. But I got to say this: the Adames domino is what started everything. Adames signing with the Giants, everyone said it was a big deal, and then nothing else happened, and we were like, oh, God. We thought something huge was going to happen. Well, it did. And the reason I say it's Adames first, because Adames and Devers have known each other for 10 years. They've known each other for a long time. And so you don't think that connection really helped him go, yeah, trade me there. Mm-hmm. And Adames has been... He was on the broadcast yesterday going, yeah, we're excited. We want this. So great. It's a great move by Buster Posey. Him making this move shows how serious he is about this job. I think a lot of people were like, I don't know, is Buster Posey really going to do a good He did. He literally did what we begged Farhan Zaidi to do for years. And now Buster Posey has done it in year 1. So this is already huge. And then one thing I did want to say is Posey making this trade during the Dodgers series, taking over just before the game started. Legend, be careful if you're lactose intolerant. Dairy, legendary.
Actually, what makes this interesting, because I actually am going to die on this hill. I think Farhan's was a Dodgers op that just completely sandbagged us during his time, because he hadn't been kicked out of the door all of but 5 minutes, and he went crawling back to the Dodgers. So, and first year with Buster Posey, and he's already turned it feels like he's done a lot better than what Farhan's did. So I think that's we're going to close that chapter. And when does Devers get in the lineup? Tuesday, right?
So they're going to introduce him tomorrow at 2:30. So I don't know if he's going to be in the lineup tomorrow, but he will for sure, probably on Wednesday for sure, I would guess.
And we have a series with the Padres this week, right?
No, the Padres are going against the Dodgers, which theirs starts today. Let me see who they're. This is a terrible podcast. Oh, they're going against the Guardians.
Okay.
On Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The greatest part about this trade is on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Guess who the Giants are going against in San Francisco?
Would that be the Dodgers?
They're going against the Boston Red Sox.
Oh, that's right. This weekend, huh?
This weekend.
Ooh.
Instant karma for Rafael Devers.
Is it going to be in Boston or San Fran? San Fran,
It's
right?
going to be in San Francisco.
Ooh, that's
I want to go so bad, but I can't even imagine how much tickets are right now. It'll probably be insane. But one thing I did want to say as well, is Rafael Devers' career stats against NL West opponents, not including the Giants. 33 games he's played, 10 home runs, 21 RBIs, 30 hits, and an .866 OPS. That's raking, bro. I mean, that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah. Boston should be a good series. Yeah. So shout out to Shovik Sport. Shout out to Tim, Matt for hanging out. Podcast Smitty. All right, Drew. I think you've got to give us now your power rankings for the week. And this is a doozy. You obviously sent this to me beforehand. And I don't know. I'm going to need some justification for some of these. So why don't you kick it off? What are you going to go 7-1 or 1-7?
I'll go 1-7.
All right.
So the number one team, this is the issue that I have the Detroit Tigers as the number one team. And I don't think they've done great, but I also don't think they've done bad. But I don't think anyone has started outplaying everyone else over this past couple of weeks or so. So I have the Tigers at number one. Tarek Skubal is on an absolute tear right now. Dear God. The complete game shutout that he had, I believe, 2 starts ago was ridiculous. You don't see that in baseball anymore. No one goes 9 innings anymore. And the Tigers have been consistent. That's all I can say about that. And so I like consistency, so I'm going to go with them. The number 2 team, I have the New York Mets. And I've been pretty low on them, but them overtaking the Phillies and then continuing to win and with all this turmoil about Juan Soto and everything, this is why the Mets spent all the money that they did, because even when this is going on, they're still a really hard team to beat. The New York Mets are my number 2 team right now. The number 3 team is the Chicago Cubs, and I wish they weren't because, like I said, I'd really like the Giants to go after Kyle Tucker, and maybe now we have a chance in the offseason, but definitely not for the trade season. So the Cubs have been doing really well, and their ace is out of the rotation. And them playing Jameson Taillon has been phenomenal. And he was pretty much down and out, it seemed like, when he was with the Yankees. And New York was kind of over him, and he goes to the Cubs, and all of a sudden he starts pitching really well again. So really, really pleased with how the Cubs have been looking lately, and they're a tough team to beat. I mean, they have power, speed, defense, pitching. Bullpen still needs to be beefed up for them, but man, they're a scary team. They are a very scary team. Then number 4, I have the Los Angeles Dodgers. They played a tough series against the Padres. Then they played the Giants, which was another tough series. I know Saturday was kind of a dud for the Giants, but all in all, it was a tough series. They just have so many injuries, and this is the weakness of the Dodgers, is the injuries. And they're going through it right now. But, they're still winning. They're still first place in the NL West, maybe only a game above the Giants right now, but still they are right there. So I have the Dodgers at 4. And then the number 5 team, I have the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees, again, a consistent team, but a team to watch out for in that AL East division is going to be the Tampa Bay Rays. They have been steadily creeping up on the Yankees. I still trust the Yankees way more than the Rays, but the Yankees have been very consistent. Rodon has pitched really good. Max Fried has been stellar, and they're doing it without their ace as well, who is Garrett Cole, or I would say arguably their ace, because a lot of people would say maybe Max Fried, but Garrett Cole is they're doing without him, and he's not going to be near the postseason. So we'll see if they can continue their dominance that they have been. My number 6 team, I have the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies have dropped down, but I still like their team. I think their team is still really good. Again, they're going to need bullpen help, but Schwarber, Harper, all those guys on that team, Turner, Real Muto has actually been hitting a lot better. They have a lineup that is so scary. They have an okay pitching rotation. And like I said, the bullpen needs help, but the Phillies, I am still going to trust that they are going to pick it up a little bit. But they're still one of the, if you look at wins and losses, they're still in the top 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, I wanted to put the Giants here, but the Houston Astros, and this is why I put them over the Giants, because my Giants are going to be number 8. The Houston Astros are number 7 because they're on a 5-game tear. They're in a 5-game winning streak, and they're so solid at pitching in their rotation. Their lineup is starting to hit. Christian Walker is finally starting to hit really well, and they're doing all of this without Yordan Alvarez, and that's impressive. Yordan Alvarez is arguably one of the best hitters in baseball. He could probably go toe-to-toe when it comes to home runs, batting average, all that jazz with Shohei and Aaron Judge. I mean, that's how talented of a hitter he is. And because he's been hurt for a long period of time, the Astros had to figure out how to do this with their lineup, and they finally have, and it's starting to really pay off. And I know everyone's sick of the Astros. I know they're not as dominant as they once were, but they're still a really good team.
I mean, I think when I saw your list and I saw the Astros on there, I go, there's no way. And then I looked, and five in a row, 8 of their last 10.
Yeah, it's quiet.
It's
a quiet reach that they had.
And they're 1 game behind the Yankees in terms of overall record of tying them. But I think if I had to look at your list, one of the things is I think for some reason the Yankees are a little bit overhyped for what you have on the list. And maybe it's because obviously they got Aaron Judge and they got a plethora of guys in that lineup. But I'm thinking like the Phillies are clearly they look like they're the better team amongst the 2 of them. And yet the Yankees still seem, I don't know, maybe it's the name, seem to get a favorable spot in your power rankings.
My thing is, and I think the way I look at it is the starting pitching, I trust more with the Yankees over the Phillies. I like the Phillies starting pitching, but I like the Yankees more. And if we were to start the beginning of this year, I would say I'd probably still pick the Phillies. Mm-hmm. But because you have to go off of how they've been. Like I said, Carlos Rodon, Max Fried have been absolutely stellar. And the Phillies, it's Aaron Nola, who's not really what he once was. And Jesus Luzardo is really good and then really bad. He's just a little too inconsistent for me. So I just trust the Yankees pitching a little bit more. Hitting wise, I trust the Phillies more. And so I edge pitching over hitting just because I grew up a Giants fan and that's all we ever did. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, pitching is so important. And I kind of look at it from the perspective of, as a basketball coach, we always try and focus a little more on defense because we're like, well, if we can't score, but we don't make the other team score, we have a chance every time in the game. Versus if we're just scoring a ton of points, but we're giving up a ton of points, it's just, you still have a chance. But if you're not on that day, especially when you're dealing with younger kids or kids who are just starting out or kids who just wanted to give basketball a try, to try and get them to score consistently is way harder than playing defense consistently. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Pitching to me is the same as when I talk about with basketball, where you can, if you have a really good pitching staff, you can always be in a game. And the Giants are proving that. When you talk about Giants and Dodgers, the Dodgers are barely over the Giants, but not by much. And it's because of that pitching. And we haven't had Rafael Devers yet. So when we had Devers, now it's going to get really interesting.
Right. Yeah, I think to put a pin on your power rankings, I get the pitching over the hitting regarding the Yankees and the Phillies. I just feel like that the Yankees dropping a series to the Boston Red Sox, who just let go of their best player, is not a great showing of that. And especially not great for the rivalry, but that's just me. But in terms of to continue your point, before we kind of move on to the next segment, with the Giants going after hitting and, the Dodgers having the pitching, their pitching is not even healthy yet. So all the more reason for the Giants to kind of bolster up their lineup as much as possible to be as competitive against that lineup as much as we can, considering I think it's tonight, or no, it's tomorrow. I think Shohei Ohtani is going to take the bump for the first time
tonight
this season. Tonight,
right now.
For the first time since he had his elbow surgery, and I think the first time as a Dodger, right?
No, not first time as a Dodger. No.
Oh, okay. Gosh,
nice
maybe he's been with the Dodgers for that long, and I didn't realize it.
Well, when he first came to the Dodgers, he was pitching, and then he got hurt, so then he just went strictly to hitting.
Mm-hmm.
And then last year they tried to get him going, and then he was like, and he felt something in his arm, and so they're like, okay, well, we're just going to have you strictly just be a DH and get your arm right.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously broke records doing that. So, yeah.
It must be all right.
Just a side note here. I've talked to this, and for those of you who've watched the show quite a bit, should know that my wife is and her family are big Dodger fans. I don't know why this video is playing. I am so sorry. Anyway, they're big Dodger fans, and I was talking to my wife about it. Like, I feel like Shohei Ohtani really needs to. He at least needs to be limited on his innings or on his pitches, because he constantly is having these issues, and it's because he's not just focused on pitching, he's focused on hitting as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I have argued that I felt like this for a few years, that he should be the closer. If you want him to pitch, you want to use his arm, because you're not going to sign him to this huge deal and not use him as pitching. I get that. But he's arguably better at the hitting part than the pitching part. And the reason I say that is, well, he can't stay healthy when he's pitching. When he's hitting, we saw what he did last year. He went 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
The first player ever to do that. That's incredible. But when you add pitching, you risk him getting hurt. So if you throw him as a relief pitcher, as a closer, he's only coming in whenever you need a closing situation. He's only pitching one inning. Maybe you throw him out there for 1.5, 1 1/3, 1 2/3 innings, maybe even 2 innings. Who knows? But he's not being used as much, which is not going to put as much strain on his arm. And also, a lot of people are like, well, if you take him out of the lineup, then you're losing his bat late in a late situation game. But you're only throwing him in when you need a closed situation. So you're trusting that he's going to make that, like you would any other closer. So my argument would be, throw him in the closing position where you can save his arm a little bit, but you're still using him and he's being effective still. But that's just me.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I don't think he should be a starting pitcher.
Well, we don't want him to be a starting pitcher, because
I want him to. If I'm a Giants fan, I want him to be a starting pitcher. If I'm a Dodger fan, I'd rather save him and put him in the bullpen. But it's just me.
Well, let's not do what you're suggesting, because I'm not trying to have him.
They're not going to. There's no way they paid that much money to be like, yeah, we'll just throw him in the bullpen. But I think it would be smart, because his bat is arguably way more effective than his pitching. His pitching, he was really good, really good. But his hitting, he was breaking records. So
sure,
arguably that's his best position, is when he's hitting. But whatever. I don't know anything.
We'll see. Do you even know ball, Drew? I guess we'll see.
I don't.
All right, let's move on to the NFL now, Drew. There's been a ton that's gone on during this training camp and mini camps that we've missed, and it's been a few weeks since we've talked. So there's actually been a lot of news that has happened. So
yeah,
let's dive into it. First off, I do want to kick off with Jaire Alexander. He was cut by the Packers. He's a free agent now, and I first want to know, what was your reaction with the news? And of course, should he go to the righteous Las Vegas Raiders?
First of all, thank you guys for letting me get that off my. I wanted to talk about this yesterday, but it was Father's Day, And like I said, my in-laws are all big Dodger fans, so they don't really want to hear me gloat, especially after the Giants lost yesterday. But I was ecstatic, and I wanted to talk about it so much. I had to text you yesterday and be like, "You ready to do an emergency pod tomorrow?" And you're like, "I'm so down."
Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys letting me do that. So thank you. And listening to me ramble on and on about how I love the Giants. And we're not going to go any further. Okay. So anyway, the Raiders do need to go after Alexander. We have Bennett, right? We kept Bennett on our team. We have who's the cornerback that we just drafted?
Darian Porter.
Porter. That's who it is. And so I think we're pretty solid, but I think Jaire Alexander really adds the veteran presence, a guy who is extremely confident, and a guy who, listen, the Packers just dropped him very surprisingly, and arguably they were not getting what they thought they were going to get for him in probably trade talks, I would assume. And so they were just like, we're just going to let him go. I think the Raiders should absolutely, with the energy that has been at the Raiders camp and the way that everyone's talking about the offense, I think this is a absolute no-brainer for the Giants, or for the Giants. I'm still in San Francisco. For the Raiders to sign Jaire Alexander. I think this would be a great fit. He's a guy that you don't even have to sign him to a huge contract anymore. Now, he just got dropped. So right now you're buying low on him, and I think it makes a ton of sense. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You don't even have to sign him to a 3-year deal or something. You can sign him to a 1-year deal and see what he does. And now, if he wants a 3-year deal and is like, no, I want that, I would still be okay with that. I think it makes more sense for the Raiders to go after Jaire Alexander because we have talked about it before. Secondary still needs a little help. Yeah, we added this player, and we added we drafted this cornerback, but he's a rookie. Can you really rely on a rookie? I'm sure they have confidence in the rookie, and I'm sure they'll throw him out there. But why not give him a few extra pointers from who once was one of the best, if not the best, cornerback in the league at one point in time in his career? And I would still say he's top 10 corner in the league. Would you?
I mean, he's coming off of an ACL from 23. I mean, a little injury here and there, but I mean, he had, according to PFF, he had a 73, no lower than 73 every season. That's including returning from injury. So that's a pretty good shutdown statistic. And he was in a very, very, very competitive NFC North going against the Lions, going against the Bears, the Vikings. So he was having to go against a lot of tough competition, not only in the North, but in the rest of the NFC. And yeah, I mean, he was, for all intents and purposes, one of the corners in the NFC that you did not want to see from the Packers. Yeah.
So I just think it's a no-brainer. You're buying low on him. Like I said, you're not going to be paying him an arm and a leg. And it's not like the Raiders don't have money to pay a little bit. But I think it would be a really good fit. Would he want to go? That's another question. We have no idea how he feels. But you get to show off your talents. You get to play against Patrick Mahomes. You get to play against I'm totally blanking on Bo Nix, who like everyone's talking about, and Justin Herbert, who everyone thinks is going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback eventually. And so if that's the case, then you get to really show off what you can do after an ACL surgery. I mean, talk about answering the call. I mean, what better time to do it than to go to the AFC West and be like, hey, I still got it. And even if you don't have all of it, like you can still go again. Like you could have him cover Travis Kelce. And Kelce is not as fast as what he once was. So Alexander kind of has a good opportunity to show off what he can do against still one of the better tight ends in the league. But he's lost a couple of steps here and there. But man, I mean, what a time, and I think now would be the time to capitalize. So,
yeah. Shovik Sports saying that he ends up with the Vikings. I mean, I'm sure
possibly. That's a good.
That is a possibility considering he'd see the Packers twice that season. But
I would make an argument, maybe the Lions. If we're looking at an AFC North team that has, I just think maybe the Lions might be a good fit. And now he doesn't have to play every single down. And
I mean,
don't know how much money they have, but
I mean, it's safe to say there's about 10 teams that you can almost like name on your hands right now in either conference that could go with, can use the services of Jaire Alexander. I mean, we can make the argument all day about why the Raiders should, because you put Jaire Alexander with like a Darian Porter, and then also too a Mello Dotson, who we had signed as well, who is, an underrated cornerback coming out of college. Bennett, you just named, and then we have Isaiah Mayo. I mean, we have a young DB, room, and so getting Jaire Alexander would help bolster that. And to go against a Patrick Mahomes, go against a Justin Herbert, going against a Bo Nix, we could really use another cornerback to kind of help combat that with the weapons that they have. However, while you were saying that, I was having terrible thoughts of like, there's the same argument for either one of the AFC West teams to have an Alexander on their team as well. Chargers could use Chargers need another cornerback.
No, they don't.
Chiefs could use Alexander on their end. The Broncos again, like
Chiefs signing.
Yeah, again, the Broncos have such a stout secondary. Imagine if they add Alexander, who does not need to be opposite of Patrick Surtain. He does not need to be the number 2 guy. He can just come in and spot fills, and that would help maybe create a little bit of levity too with his previous injury history. So, I mean, there's an argument to be made against a lot of teams in the league. And I guess if we're going to make the conversation for AFC West specific, the Raiders, I would love to have him on the team because I feel like our defense needs some pieces here and there. And there's a player that we just signed to the linebacking room that we'll talk about in a little bit. But I think having Alexander on the defense as well will help the Raiders defense being able to, keep up with a lot of these teams, because I mean, no doubt that we have an exciting potential offense that's coming aboard. Can our defense follow suit, and can our secondary hang in there with the likes of the Chiefs, with the Chargers, with the Broncos, who might have a more high-powered offense coming into this season? So definitely having as many defensive weapons as possible is what I would want. Yeah. But at the same time too, like, does Alexander want to be on a team that has a lot of potential, or is he wanting to be on a contender? And honestly, it's probably more of an argument that if he wants to be on a contender, the Bengals might be a team that goes after him. The Baltimore Ravens might be a team that goes after him. Houston Texans might be in service of him. Again, everyone that's not the Raiders in the AFC West might want to go after Alexander. So the fact that Alexander is available, I get it, like injury history, but there's still so much there, potential that could be there. And, with that experience, who knows what that brings to your defensive back room,
Yeah, I would say the Bengals are not going to spend money.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about the Bengals.
Funny thing is we're about to tee up for the next question on that. So, so
they signed their one defensive player.
Yeah. So, well, actually, I think I just saw this is not the topic that we're going to talk about next, but I just saw that the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson, they finally started talking again about a potential extension, which, by the way, is insane. I mean, the fact that we've gone this far and there's not even like a start to like, is Trey Hendrickson going to be back? Literally led the NFL in sacks. He was your best defensive player. You don't have a defense, and yet, we just don't know if we're going to pay you. Who else do you have that's better than that? And this is going to kind of lead into the segment now. Shemar Stewart, their first round pick, they can't sign him because of a new provision that they're trying to put in his contract. And now it has gotten to where the rookie has done a holdout and now has left camp. I mean, what are the Bengals doing?
If you're Joe Burrow, you're so mad you signed the extension. You are so mad you signed the extension. You're just convinced.
You got to be punching air right now. There's no
just
way.
Convinced Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to stay. Did everything you could, and then the Bengals pull this crap. My God. The Bengals are horribly run. And they've been run horribly for years. They have lucked into some really good quarterbacks. But the reason they can't get over that hump, they can't win that Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest streaks we saw was when the Bengals were in the playoffs and they got to the Super Bowl. But the reason they will never win a Super Bowl, and they're not going to get to a Super Bowl anytime soon, is the way that they are run. Mm-hmm. They do not do their players justice. This is why it took Joe Burrow begging to re-sign Jamar freaking Chase,
mm-hmm.
who is one of the best receivers in the game. You could argue, hey, maybe he's a one-trick pony. We think maybe it's because Joe Burrow is throwing him the ball. Argue that all you want. But the fact of the matter is the Bengals do not know how to run a team and keep their players happy. They've done it time and time and time. They were so lucky that Carson Palmer stayed as long as he did.
Yeah.
They are lucky that Andy Dalton stayed as long as they. That is the only reason the Bengals have been relevant for these years is the quarterback play. If it's not for the quarterback, the Bengals are a horrible team, and I guarantee you they're put up for sale. But because they have back-to-back competent quarterbacks, it's saved their jobs for so many years, but they don't know how to win a Super Bowl. They think, oh, we have the quarterback, we're good. That's a great piece to have, but you also have to add a few things. It's a team freaking sport. There's 11 players on your team on the field at all times.
Mm-hmm.
So just one guy is not going to do it. He can do a lot, but he's not going to do it all for you.
Yeah. The Bengals are the team that don't know how their team should function. Like, the reason why they got Joe Burrow is because they had the number 1 overall pick, because they sucked that year to get the number 1 pick. You want to know how they got Jamar Chase? Is because they sucked enough to get a high enough draft pick to have him. And this was, and God bless Joe Burrow, in his rookie year, he got injured. So, it's not his fault that they were terrible his rookie year, because he was doing his best.
Fault.
Yeah, it's his fault. It's actually still the Bengals' fault because that offensive line. And then when Joe Burrow came back rookie year with Chase, they looked phenomenal with T. Higgins. Weren't like the most winningest team, but they looked okay. And then actually, I'm on the right track. And then the following year, that's when they go to the Super Bowl. And yet, if it wasn't for their offensive line, because at the time their defense was pretty good.
Yeah.
But their offensive line screwed them over royally. And then the following year, the Super Bowl hangover, all of a sudden, again, no offensive line. You had the whole off season to plan for this. Wouldn't do it. Now, finally, the season that we just had where the defense let him down. Joe Burrow was cooking. Jamar Chase was cooking. T. Higgins was going off. They didn't have Mixon, so they had Chase Brown, and I'm forgetting who the backup running back is, but that's irrelevant to my point. Is they had the offense to put points up, and Joe Burrow kept him in these games. Arguably an MVP style season.
Yeah.
But that defense let them down week after week after week. And the Bengals' bright idea was, we're not going to pay a single defensive player. They said, bet, we see you. No, we're not going to re-sign you, Trey Hendrickson, no matter, even if you had 17
even if we
sacks.
draft you, we're not signing you.
Yes. And then and again, to get to the overall point with the Shemar Stewart, like, listen, I thought I was hearing rumors of like, he's asking for too much money, this, that, and the third. No, come to find out, the Bengals put a new provision in the contract, and this is one of the articles I referenced in our notes, that basically said that the language of it says that if he does anything wrong into their eyes, that, he's a young kid. I think he's like 20 or 21 or something like that. If he does anything wrong in the eyes of the Bengals, they have the right to void his entire contract. So he has no guaranteed money, which, by the way, he would be the first rookie on the Bengals team to have ever signed that, because they're trying to set a new precedent, quote unquote. Other teams do have this provision according to this article, but Shemar Stewart would be the first Bengal to ever have this in his agreement. And for Shemar, like, I get it. Like, I wouldn't want to sign that either. I'm not trying to be the first guy to be this example. Like, no, like, just do it how you used to it. Let's sign it. Let's get on the field. Let's get this done. Like, you drafted me in the first round for a reason, and then on the Bengals side, I get it. Like, you want to protect yourself, but I have a feeling that your team is the reason why they don't want to play for you, not because they're knuckleheads and they're going to get in trouble. Like, the fact that we're at this point, like, what's more apparent, that this team doesn't take care of their star players, or that they're a well-run organization? I'm going to say that they don't know how to take care of their guys, because if it wasn't for Joe Burrow signing with the Bengals, and now granted, like, there's no reason for Joe Burrow to leave. He wasn't going to get money elsewhere. I get it. But the fact that they strung along Chase, T. Higgins, they let Joe Mixon walk out the door, all these defensive guys that they've, kind of let go. Trey Hendrickson, who they have no loyalty to, who's been their best guy for, 6 seasons minimum. The fact that we're at this point where their first round rookie is on a holdout just because they are trying to change something at the last second and trying to be the smartest person in the room is absolutely embarrassing. If I'm in the Bengals organization, walk around with a paper bag around your head, because this is embarrassing.
Yeah, it's shameful, and I understand them putting, like, hey, we can't have you mess, you can't have these legal issues or yada yada yada. Completely understand that, but to not give a guy a guarantee that you literally drafted because you obviously saw something where, like, hey, he could make the team. You're not just drafting someone to be like, oh, we had to put a name on the card. No, you're doing. That's why the draft takes so long. That's why it's become a 3-day process now, because it was miserable to watch as a consumer, because you're watching it all freaking day. Where now they've changed it to where, hey, we're gonna make it a little more watchable. But so these guys are doing their homework. You're not hiring guys to just be like, just put a name on the card and we'll deal with it later. No, it's not like that. And then they were just like, well, we're going to put this provision on to get him to not sign. No, they wanted this kid. They wanted him on the team. And by all means, what we've talked about so far is their defense is not very good. This is a defensive player. What are we doing? I mean, Cincinnati, I'm so sorry. You have to deal with the Reds, who they seem like, I mean, they're doing okay this year, but like, it's not as great as what everyone thought it was going to be. Then you have to deal with the Bengals. It's not great.
It's terrible. And the fact that there's even a discussion that Shemar Stewart is, if he does not play this entire season, and it's a possibility. I don't know how big of a possibility, I'm going to be honest. I think that they come to a resolution somehow, some way, but this they might. I mean, this completely derails Shemar Stewart's progress. I mean, now he's basically behind.
Yep.
But there is a possibility, according to the article I'm referencing here, where he sits out this entire season, can get redrafted and go from there. Which, if the Bengals lose out on a draft pick, that would be the wildest thing I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen. I mean, we saw obviously the Eli Manning and the Phillip Rivers trade, like when that happened, like we saw that, got that. This would be something I've never seen before, where a first round player could not reach an agreement with the team that drafted him, sits out, gets redrafted, goes elsewhere. Like I've seen a lot of wild stuff, but if the Bengals were the first to do that, man, management or ownership needs to be called out by the NFL, because that is crazy.
Yeah, it's wild, and I'm befuddled by this story.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Of course, our favorite quarterback of all time, Aaron Rodgers. Drew, I think you and I think we talk about him quite often. He signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. I think he's 41, 42 now. He's going to be paired with Mike Tomlin. Dude, what are your thoughts on Rodgers being a Steeler?
It's the worst kept secret, first of all. I am starting to believe this, and I have no knowledge. I've seen nothing of it. It's just literally my thoughts that have been going on. Is I believe that the Steelers have finally gone up to Mike Tomlin and be like, listen, man, you've been phenomenal all these years, but we can't get past the first round. And it's starting to become a joke in the NFL. And we want to do you a solid. We're going to have you coach at least one more year. So in that year, we need you to do something to get past the first round. And I think what Mike Tomlin believes, and I don't think he's wrong, is he's a quarterback away from getting at least past the first round. Maybe even in the AFC Championship. Possibly.
So you think Rodgers is at quarterback?
I think Aaron Rodgers, if you look at what he did at the end of the Jets year, he was arguably one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
Okay, sure.
You don't think so?
Dude, they had the 8th overall pick. I don't know how great of a quarterback that was.
They had the 8th overall pick, but you think that it was strictly just Rodgers?
I mean, he's the reason why they were in a position where they got the GM head coach fired. His best friend, who was the OC, got him demoted. I mean, I don't think he was the reason why they were winning games. That's for sure.
I would disagree. I think he was one of the main reasons they were winning games once all of that happened. I'm not arguing that he didn't get them fired either.
Sure.
I think he did because I think of his antics and everything. But I think if you look at Aaron Rodgers' numbers, especially towards the second half of the year, he was one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He was. And you could say it's garbage time. You could say it's the Jets were already out of the playoffs at that point. Like, what are they going to do? But he didn't have to go out and play like that. And he wanted to stay with the Jets. He had said that he wanted to. The Jets didn't want to stay with Aaron Rodgers. And I understand that because of his antics.
Sure. I'm on the assumption he's been in this league for a long time. Yep. There's no way that he talked himself into thinking that he was going to stay with the Jets with a new regime coming. I'm fully believing that he knew that he was going to be out the door. There's no reason to keep him around. He's an expensive quarterback. And he didn't have any guaranteed money left. I'm of the belief that he knew this going into there. So him playing like the whole, I want to stay in New York, man, miss me with that. There's no way that I believe that he himself believed that was going to be true. There's no way.
Okay, that's fair. I just think that Aaron Rodgers signing with the Steelers is Mike Tomlin, because what other quarterback are they going to go after? I mean, realistically...
I mean, they have Mason Rudolph. You don't think he's going to...
I was going to say, are you being serious right now? So, I just think it's the last roll of the dice for Mike Tomlin. Sure. I fully believe if this is a complete flop, and it's very possible, not arguing that at all, if it's a complete flop, then Aaron Rodgers not only is gone, but so is Mike Tomlin. And I don't think that's going to be on Aaron Rodgers. I think that's more Mike Tomlin. He's been with Pittsburgh for a long time. They always are just so mediocre. It's wild. And so I'm pretty sure the ownership is probably like, dude, seriously, we got to start picking it up. It's ridiculous that the Bengals, who won't literally sign a rookie defender where they need that, is still competing with us. Like, that shouldn't be the case. Sure. The Browns, who have literally 4 quarterbacks and have no idea who's going to be the quarterback, they should not be competing with us. And so I really, truly believe they feel like they're at least the second best team in the league. And now this whole thing with TJ Watt, I think TJ Watt sees it. I think that's why he's requesting, like, you either sign me to a long contract or I'm gone. Like, this is not going to go over well. So I think he sees the writing on the wall as well. And I don't think signing Aaron Rodgers was not Aaron Rodgers maneuvering this move. I really, truly believe This was Mike Tomlin grasping at straws, throwing a noodle at the wall and seeing what sticks. That's kind of what this move was. And I think other players who've been with Mike Tomlin for a while are starting to see the writing on the wall that this is a last-ditch effort. I don't know if I want to be a part of it. And that's why you're seeing this turmoil being happening. Do I think Aaron Rodgers is the right quarterback for the job? No. I think if I were the Steelers, if we're looking towards the future, I'd probably take this year off, basically. And which means you're probably going to have to trade TJ Watt. But if you're Mike Tomlin, this is your last-ditch effort. This is the only play you had. You got to go for it and say, I gave it my best shot.
That's interesting because as you were giving your point, I don't think that the Rooney family, the one that owns the Steelers, is like, Tomlin, this is your last year. I would not be surprised, though, if Tomlin on his own accord just says, you know what, I need to step away from football because what is he coming into his 18th season with the Steelers? Because it's been a long, a long tenure for him. Because the reason why, because the Rooney family have only had 3 coaches in 40 years or something like that. They had Tom Landry. They had I'm forgetting who the coach was that won the Super Bowl for them when it had been Roethlisberger.
Bill Cowher.
Bill Cowher. And then you have Mike Tomlin, who's been the head coach since then. And the Rooney family just doesn't seem like a family that turns over coaches religiously. Even the Baltimore Ravens have had John Harbaugh on the team or as their head coach for many seasons now as well. And they're just both the organization that remind me of what stability looks like. Now, I can see a world where Mike Tomlin has his kicks and giggles with Aaron Rodgers to see maybe we're a veteran quarterback away or a future Hall of Fame quarterback away from being relevant in the AFC North or in the AFC in general. Now, I mean, is this an upgrade at what they have on the roster? Yeah, no doubt. Aaron Rodgers is better than Will Howard. He's better than Mason Rudolph for sure. I just don't know if Aaron Rodgers is the difference maker that's going to get this team over the hump. But I also think a lot of it to your credit. I don't know if Mike Tomlin helped his situation by waiting so long to figure out what they wanted to do with quarterback. Because maybe they could have drafted a quarterback with a higher draft pick. I mean, Shedeur Sanders went in the 6th round, and he was touted as either top 2 or top 3 quarterback in the draft going into draft night, and he fell all the way to the 6th round. If we really thought that we needed a quarterback, maybe it was Shedeur Sanders. Maybe you get a Dylan Gabriel in sooner than the 3rd round when he was selected or whatnot. I feel like the Steelers, and maybe it is Mike Tomlin, did not know what they want to do with quarterback, or maybe we're set on Aaron Rodgers this whole time, but with some of their moves, I don't know. I think Tomlin might be looking to leave and take a season or 2 off, but I don't think the Rooneys are ever going to fire Mike Tomlin. I think, and in my opinion too, he's earned enough to have one losing season at least, because he's never had a losing season. I think he at least deserves to have a losing season. Let's regroup, assuming that this is finally the year, because for the last, 6 seasons, we've been saying, oh, this is the year where the Steelers are going to suck. This is the season where they're going to suck. And every season they either seem to be above 500, at 500, or in the wild card, and never in the top 10 in terms of the draft. So I think I can see a world where Tomlin just says, you know what, guys, I'm done with coaching for a while. I'm going to step back and have Will Howard and whatever offensive minded head coach take this team and go from there. But, again, I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is the guy that's going to all of a sudden turn them into a Super Bowl contender.
I agree, but my point is this, and I guess this is where we disagree, is I feel like, yes, you're right. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, but if you really look at the Steelers, you've never looked at them since that Super Bowl and be like, this is the best team in the league. You're like, God, they just need a quarterback, or God, they just need this, or they just need that, or they drafted Najee Harris and everyone was like, oh, okay, they're going to be And then Najee Harris was kind of not great, and it was like, oh, well, that kind of sucked. And then it was, okay, we just need a quarterback, and then they don't really draft any quarterbacks, and then they draft Will Howard, and people are like, I don't think that's it, and so they go after, Aaron Rodgers, and I just think it's just a lot of mediocre. If you look at the Steelers, it's been a lot of mediocrity. And I think they've benefited from AFC that has been not great for a while, but now recently it's been a lot better, and so now you're starting to see the lights brighten up on the Steelers of, oh, this actually is pretty bad. And I honestly, I feel like they should have went after Joe Flacco from the Browns. Like, it would have been cheaper, and he's a guy who's been in that division, obviously, with the Ravens for a long time. He's an old guy who would teach the young guys, and you're not going to have controversy with Joe Flacco. And he's said previously that he would play until he feels like he can't play anymore, or until someone says, no, we're not going to sign you. Like, every team says no. He said he wants to play that whole time. And so I think that would have been a better solution, in my opinion, because he would be like a Mike Tomlin guy. He's a, yes, coach, let me do that for you. I got you. He's a tough guy. Is he old? Yes, but he's coming without the drama.
I mean, I guess, but the Baltimore Ravens Super Bowl that he had might stop him from doing that. Look, I think, yeah, sure, you're saying that they've had a spotlight of mediocrity, but if anything, like, yeah, sure, they've had a lot of seasons where it just seemed like that they fell flat. They're underwhelming. But to the credit of Mike Tomlin, that's a lot of coaching of, like, not a great roster, but still was able to coach them into being above 500, above 500, or in the wild card hunt. And the personalities that he had to manage with, like, having AB on the team and all the other defensive players or offensive players that he's gone through, having the George Pickens situation, and still, like, at any given time, they feel like they may not be the best team in the AFC, but whenever they go toe to toe with, the Ravens or the Bengals, they seem to, like, get theirs, and they seem to be in the hunt at least. And I think, like, for us as Raider fans who haven't been to the playoffs since 2016, and before then, 2002, the Steelers are at least in the hunt to get there. And just because the head coach can't get us over the hump for whatever the reason, it's roster this, it's roster that. The fact that with whatever roster he has, good or bad, he has coached to where they are relevant still. I think that's something that, I mean, maybe we're having two different arguments about whether or not Aaron Rodgers is the right quarterback for them. But I feel like that Mike Tomlin has earned the respect to have one failing season. And if failing means, like, under 500 or last place in the division, I feel like he's earned that. And I don't feel like we need a knee jerk, like, okay, that's it, we're letting you go. Because, again, one of the most tenured head coaches in all of the NFL.
Yeah.
And he's done a really good job with whatever roster's been put in front of him.
I agree with you, but in the day and age that we are in, and I think that's what we're forgetting right now, is that's why it's starting to become like, okay, mediocre, and we're like over 500 most of the year, but that's not good enough. You're looking to win championships. And to be honest, if you're part of a Steelers organization, your goal is always to be in a championship run. And the Steelers have not been that type of a team for a while. And you can say, yes, he's done great with what little he has. But at the same time, you can make the case of maybe we just need a change of scenery. Maybe we just need someone new to come in and revitalize this team, because right now it's a lot of first round out, don't make the playoffs, but had a winning record. So we're going to hang on to that. Like, we're in a day and age where you got to win now. And unfortunately for the Steelers, it's been a long time. I agree with you. As a Raider fan, we would take that all day and more. But the reality is the Steelers have been mediocre for these last few years, and it has not gotten better.
Yeah. I mean, fair. I mean, going back to the ultimate question here, which is the Aaron Rodgers signing. I mean, maybe this is Mike Tomlin's last ditch effort to satisfy quote unquote Steeler fans and to see if we can be competitive with, again, Aaron Rodgers is arguably a Hall of Fame quarterback, and we'll see if Mike Tomlin can coach the other parts of this team to where Aaron Rodgers offensively makes a difference. I don't think so, because I think Aaron Rodgers is past that point, and honestly, I don't think he's that much of a difference maker. I mean, he throws the ball better than most people we've ever seen, but I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is that much of a difference maker to elevate, the Steelers, I suppose. So,
all right.
One last one, and I think breaking news last week: Raiders signed Germaine Pratt. I like the signing, but I do want to get to this rumor question, though.
Okay.
And I've been seeing this on Instagram. I've been seeing this on Raiders Twitter a little bit. So I want to tell you about it, Drew. And I think you might have been seeing it. There's been, for some reason, this rumor that's been going around.
Been all over Giants Twitter.
Okay. There's been this rumor within the Raiders, like Twitter, Instagram, that there is a quote unquote quarterback battle going on with Geno Smith and AOC, Aiden O'Connell. And I have actually seen a couple of Raider Instagram pages that have said that Geno Smith looks bad. He's not getting the offense. He's thrown the most interceptions in camp. Aiden O'Connell looks, better out of the two. Don't be surprised if Aiden O'Connell is named the starting quarterback. And then earlier today, and I posted it on our Instagram story, Hondo Carpenter said, if anyone is saying that, they have no idea what's going on. That is the exact opposite of what's going on. Geno Smith looks just better in general. So I want to know from you, Drew, do you think that this is legitimate, or do you think this is nothing?
I think it's nothing. I think they're trying to hype up AOC because he's going to be a trade candidate. I kind of
do you think the Steelers are going to trade for him?
It'd be such a the Bengals are going to trade for him. We need a backup quarterback.
We need a backup.
We don't need defense. We need more quarterback. No, I just kind of feel like there are some people who feel like we have not given Aiden O'Connell a fair shot. And I think that's fair. I wouldn't argue that. I would also say there's a reason he hasn't gotten a shot, because from what I've seen, he's just meh. Yeah. Not like, okay, he's not like, okay, I can kind of see. He's not like, oh, he's god awful. He's just meh. And I don't think that the Raiders, the way they have been run for a while, has not been great. But this regime really is an understanding of football type of people. So I don't think even if it's true that Geno Smith is throwing picks left and right, you'd rather him do it now than later. And so the argument could be that Geno Smith is trying to figure out what he can get away with. Let's see what I can get away with here. Let's see if I make the throw like this. Let's see if I see this kind of coverage, how it looks, and I throw this. So I'm sure he's trying to throw interceptions to see what he can get away with and what he can't. That's what smart quarterbacks do. With Aiden O'Connell, he's always been very, very conservative. Now, he doesn't throw a lot of picks. He's not gonna, try and do way too much. But sometimes when you need him to do a little bit, he's not that kind of guy. And so I think the Raiders do fully understand. Sorry if you can hear the sirens in the background.
Yeah, something's going on.
Sounds like it's a fire. So I don't know. I don't see any smoke in the air, so it's not by me. But anyway, so but I just feel like the Raiders do know what they're doing. They know what they're looking for. And like I said, if Geno Smith is really throwing interceptions, I do feel like it's on purpose. Like he's trying to gauge. This is camp. We're literally talking about camp, guys. We're not even talking about preseason practice. We're not even talking about regular season. Relax. I think this is all fluff. This is trying to hype up AOC a little bit to get people like, oh, you know what? Maybe like, if Geno Smith gets hurt, Aiden O'Connell is right there. But listen, from what I've seen over the last couple of years now, Aiden O'Connell is not going to be better than Geno Smith. Aiden O'Connell hardly runs, and when he does, he looks like he's got water weight. And so with Geno Smith, he's going to be that much better. Geno Smith has been doing it at a high level for a while. He's been doing it with a team, the Seahawks, who basically were really good and then had to rebuild, and all during San Francisco 49ers dominance. Arizona Cardinals at one point were really good, and the Los Angeles Rams have been relevant since Sean McVay got there. So that's what the Seahawks and Geno Smith have had to deal with, and he's been doing it really well. So the Raiders are not going to trade for Geno Smith and be like, oh, Aiden O'Connell's better. They're not going to do that. I'm sorry. Even if Aiden O'Connell is outplaying Geno Smith, like even if it's by like if it were like 1,000 more yards, I still think the Raiders would throw out Geno Smith. I think they'd be like, yeah, we're gonna see what we got in there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and the people that always say like, and you brought up this where some people think that Aiden O'Connell hasn't gotten a fair shot. I'm curious, like, how much more of a shot does he need? Like, he's had, granted, I get it. Like, he's gone through 2 head coaches, and I get it, a couple of different offensive coordinators, and I get it. Like, let's give him a full season as the number 1 guy and all that. I get it. But, he's had.
We don't need to.
We've had ample opportunity to get a sample size. Like, yeah, he's done well. Like he's a good quarterback. I think he's like a really solid backup in the league for sure.
Yeah.
Like he's going to make a hell of a living as a backup to a solid team when he has to come in garbage time or in injury relief. He's going to be solid. Now, a lot of people think and have this fantasy back when the Seahawks, signed Matt Flynn when he had that phenomenal game at the Green Bay Packers many, many seasons ago, where he had this phenomenal game, and then the Seahawks then drafted Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, as a rookie, started over Matt Flynn, who they paid all this money for. And ever since then, like, people just assume that there's this world of like, just because you trade or sign a quarterback to a big deal doesn't mean they're guaranteed the spot. And and again, this isn't the same thing. We've had this quarterback on the team in Aiden O'Connell for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Like, he's not, if he would have been the starting quarterback, he'd have been named the starting quarterback already. We would not have traded for Geno Smith if he was that much of a difference maker. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say Aiden O'Connell isn't a good quarterback. He's a fine quarterback, but Geno Smith is just a better quarterback statistically. Like, on a visual eye test, he's just a better quarterback. He's more mobile. He's more accurate. He brings more life to an offense. Even Hondo Carpenter, just like who I referenced at the top of the question, referenced that, yeah, Geno Smith is playing great. In fact, the ball's coming out faster than when he was in Seattle. So he's working on his quick release. That's a lot different. Yeah. No shade to Aiden O'Connell. He's improved a lot too, but Geno Smith is just better. And that's okay to have a better quarterback. Let's not throw rumors out there that Geno Smith, he's sucking at camp. It's camp. I hope that he's throwing interceptions so he learns from it, because that's how you get better. Like, if he never threw an interception in camp, then maybe that means the defense isn't doing a good job, because the fact that the defense is being competitive and winning some battles and making Geno Smith a better quarterback, like, I want to know that Geno Smith is working his tail off, and that's because he's got a tough defense he's playing against every practice and throughout training camp. I don't want to hear that he's mistake-free, because when he makes mistakes in the regular season and he's mid-season trying to work that out, I don't want that to happen. I want him to figure this out in training camp. That's what it's for, So I agree. I mean, that's a unique perspective of maybe this is for trade bait, but I mean, I think Aiden O'Connell is a really good quarterback as a backup, but I mean, we did not trade a 3rd round pick, re-sign Geno to a $38 million a year deal to have him sit on the bench. There's no way.
It's not realistic.
Yeah. So
update on Shohei Ohtani. He went 1 inning, gave up 2 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, no strikeouts, and then they put him in as DH. So he is out.
He had no strikeouts?
No strikeouts.
Interesting.
I mean, it's against Padres, and he went against the first inning. So you're going against Tatis, Arise, Machado. I assume Sheets and Bogarts at least, maybe Cronenworth. So that's a tough start to begin with. It wasn't great.
All right. Well, I know that we had some NBA finals to talk about. Breaking news: Thunder won Game 5. So there you go. They're up now 3-2, heading back to Indiana. So there's your NBA talk. So
there you go.
All right, guys, we're going to sign off. This is Drew Coat Sports Talk. If you guys have been watching through the whole time, thank you. Please subscribe, please like, please share. Follow us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the social medias. We're there. We want to thank our partner, StreamYard. Also, we want to thank SeatGeek, Fanatics. All of the special links are listed down below to get great deals. Use our promo codes. They're all in the link down below. So we highly encourage you to do that. Help support the show. We can always love, a little coin in our pocket. And Drew, I appreciate you, man, for calling an emergency podcast and getting your fervor out for baseball. Always love it when you're jazzed up about Giants baseball. It makes the show that much more fun. So
we're back, baby.
We are so back. So we're signing off, you guys. We will see you guys next time. Be kind to one another, and we'll catch you on the next episode. So we'll see you.
No Kings.